The words exist for reasons. Remember with my son, we had a wooden floor in the bedroom, and he was trying to learn to crawl. And because the floor was wooden, it was very slippery. Yeah, he would go backwards instead of forwards. He would do this, but he would go backwards instead of forwards.
I can imagine it. It's very funny.
Yeah, and I was thinking this is not good, because when he stands up, he'll be going backwards everywhere. They get it very quickly, don't they? They pull themselves up onto their feet, and they make 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps, then 20 steps, and then it's crazy because you don't know where's the baby? Where's the baby? Oh my god! And in the kitchen, taking things out of the cupboard. Yeah. Yeah, it gets a little bit crazy. Wow. So all these good times ahead. Yeah, it's sometimes difficult for the father to bond with the child because of the fact that the child can't do much. The child is very dependent on other people and other things around about. But there are some biological studies that show that it's the first year is the most important time for the father to have contact with his daughter because of hormonal elements that if the female baby is not in contact with male hormones, they don't consider male hormones normal. There are even studies that show that women who have bigger problems in relationships later in life were not didn't have much contact with their father in the first 3 years. So and it's interesting biology because if there's the contact with the father, then they get used to these male hormones being in their environment. They consider it normal. But if there are no male hormones in their environment, they develop biologically in the sense that it's not normal to have male hormones in the environment. And there are some theories that this is what affects children later in life. There's also a book called The Origins of War in Child Abuse, which looks at the first 3 years of life, and then it looks at people who become soldiers. And usually those people who become soldiers have very little contact with their family in the first few years of life. Yeah, well, the closeness of the father to the daughter is the closeness of the daughter to her husband. There's an almost perfect parallel relationship between those two things. It's just like it's so accurate. It's like 99% of the time that the daughter chooses a future partner who is the psychological mirror of her own father, because that's what she considers to be normal, whether she is consciously aware of this or not. Because isn't that the way the universe works? That's the way the world works, because anything else is hypocrisy. To say, what's the classic example? The parent who smokes, who tells the child, don't smoke, right? What kind of message? Well, what kind of message is that? That's like saying, don't shoot yourself while I shoot myself. It makes no sense to the child. It's very confusing. It just means that I am not going to listen to this person because this person has no logic. So, so the result is that the parents, especially the father, when you have a daughter, needs to understand that the daughter's future partner, if the father is a positive role model, will mirror that, and if the father is a negative role model, will mirror that. So the choice of your daughter's future partner, the decision is made within the first 3 years of her life, essentially. Whatever she experiences as the brain grows and these cognitive neural connections all come together. There's also studies that show that the brain grows more when there's a closer relationship with the father to the daughter, so that there's a stronger family bond there. It's people forget that children are born prematurely. If you compare people to animals, it's not a great comparison, but animals, when they're born, they can stand up, they can walk, they can run around. We've all seen the videos of giraffes and horses and chimpanzees and whatever. They're all born ready to live, but the child can't really do anything for the first 2 years almost, and so the baby is still growing as if in the womb, but is actually in the real world. So the same care that the baby has inside the mother is the same care that the baby needs in the outside world. I work with some younger children, and when I talk to them, I'm very aware, because language is my job, I'm very aware that their words are not coming from them. Their words and their language are coming from their parents. Sometimes when I talk to them, it's like talking to their parents, because they are just mirroring the words, the phrases, the structures, the ideas, the philosophies that their parents have. And I can see it because I'm on the outside. When you're in the middle of the situation, everything is normal. Okay, great. Well, what's normal, right? What's normal in Poland is different from what's normal in Slovakia, right? Every country has a different normal. There are 200 countries in the world, so there are at least 200 different types of normal. And this shapes our understanding of everything. The children. I saw some pictures of my son, because obviously I told you my family's in Scotland for a few months, and they will come back on Sunday. It's Friday, Sunday. This is 3 days. This weekend they will come back to Slovakia, and I saw some pictures, and I was shocked that that's me.
Oh yes, really?
Yeah. There we go, and that's my son. There, and that's exactly how I looked, right, at that age. It's like a perfect mirror of how I looked, and I saw the pictures, and I was, whoa, oh my god.
Old picture.
Yeah, and there was, because he was playing football, and in one of the games he was playing goalkeeper, and that was my position when I was a kid. And I don't. Yeah, I was. It was easier for me because I didn't like to run around for some reason. I like to dive on the ground and get the ball. But when I saw a picture of him, I was like, that's me. That's exactly how I looked when I was when I was his age. Oh, it's great and scary at the same time. Yeah, as parents, we know what's coming, right? So it's our job to prepare our children for what we can prepare them for. Some things we can't prepare them for, but it's difficult because then you can't prepare for everything, right? So difficult choices and decisions to make, and the decisions we make at the start are the important decisions, because they have the greatest effect. There's 3 psychological stages of development. There's 0 to 5, which you can break down into 0 to 3 and 3 to 5 if you want, because there's the development of the motor skills, of moving, and then there's the development of the language skills, and those are all, that's like 0 to 3 is the motor skills, and 3 to 5 is the language skills. So there's 0 to 5, and then 5 to 8, and then 8 to 12. And beyond the age of 12, there's very little psychological development in people. IQ studies, there's only 5 points difference between IQ studies at the age of 12 and IQ studies at the age of about 50. So that the IQ, now IQ is dependent upon your society that you live in. So it's variable depending upon where you live and what you do. You know, the goat farmer in Tibet needs different skills from the technical analyst in whatever city somewhere. So you can have a high IQ and just not have a good quality of life because you don't have the skills that fit into the culture. But there's a strong comparison between the age of 12 and the age of 50. There's very little variation. Here's a tip. Here's a key piece of advice. The single greatest way to increase IQ levels in children is through nutrition. Nutrition, yeah, because what IQ is, it's not just the information you're getting, it's the connections that are developing in your brain. If your brain doesn't develop properly, well, you don't have an engine for your car, right? So I mean, you can have a nice car, but if you've got a bad engine, you're not going to get very far. And so, we focus on a lot of things like language skills, but the single greatest effector of IQ development that we can find is nutrition, and the greatest form of nutrition for the brain is iodine and iodine supplements. And you type in iodine increases IQ, type it into Google, and you'll get major studies by governments all around the world that if children have iodine in their diet, it increases their IQ by 10 points. Now consider the difference between 100 IQ and 110 IQ. There's a bit of a difference there. Yeah? No, that could be the difference between, that can be $1 million a year difference in the job that you're doing, or in the quality or value you provide for society. And to realize that comes from nutrition, from the getting the right nutrients into the body, because the body's still building itself. You have to feed it with the right parts to build itself. If you don't give it the right parts, it can't build itself properly. the really young kids are small bodies, his big head, kind of just balancing on top of the small body as a child moves around. And so the brain growth is important, and it's growing in these minute connections up to the age of 12, and beyond the age of 12 it doesn't really develop anymore, which is why in all ancient cultures at the age of 13 you were an adult. There was an initiation ceremony or some kind of ceremony in all cultures, and at the age of 13 you got married, or you became an adult and you took a partner, because that's the way the world was. Probably a bit young to have those experiences, but it's interesting. I'll give you one crazy example of this. The first admiral in the American Navy was called Admiral Farragut, and he was given charge of his first fleet of ships at the age of 13. Yeah, well, he was considered at the age of 13 to be the best and most experienced person to be in charge of this fleet of ships, which included obviously all the people working, and it included slaves and prisoners, and people took their orders from him at the age of 13. Now, you consider what skills 13-year-olds have now. You know, how much responsibility they have. Yeah, we're still saying, get out of the front of the car. Get in the back. We're still saying that. Yeah, but that's an interesting example of responsibility developing at a very young age. Yeah, you don't really have much choice in that kind of situation. I look back at the history of people like was it Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was left by his parents at the age of 11. His parents just left. He was 11 years old to look after himself, get food, take care of his sister. He had a younger sister he had to take care of at the age of 11. And you know, what kind of responsibility does it take to become a president? Well, there's an example, right? If you're starting at 11 and everyone else is starting at 25, yeah, you have 15 years advantage on everybody else, and whatever your problems are, you know, whatever your brain develops to the level of the problems that you have to solve. If you don't have any problems to solve, your brain won't develop. So we all, as parents, try to provide a safe environment for our children. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's just question mark, right? Yeah. Almost every parent says they have the experience of trying to make sure that everything is okay, and you know the opposite happens, right? You say to your child, "Be careful," and they're like, "What?" And they follow her. There are studies of Indonesia. There are these tribal groups that live in trees. I'm not exactly sure where. I've read about them. You know, and they live at the tops of trees, and they have their houses there on the edge of the jungles and forests. And the babies are born there, and there are these platforms with nothing on the side, and no baby has ever fallen off. The babies go to the edge and they look over and they sit there and then they go back. They don't ever fall off the edge, which is really, really, really hard to believe, because you sit and watch your kids and your heart's going, oh my God, he's going to crash his bicycle. Oh. Oh no, he's going to ski into that tree. Oh. So yeah, there are studies of that. There are I read an article a few years ago called Feral Children. Feral means wild. And there are stories in history of children that were left abandoned by their parents in forests. And they grew up and survived. All without parents. And we're talking about babies being left in the forest. Well, it's obviously harder, and there's a greater chance of death, and you don't develop language skills, and you develop your animal instincts, and then you don't integrate into society because society is as crazy as the jungle. Yeah, we spend all our lives learning how things work, and I hand up, be honest, I know less than 1% of how things work, right? I'm not quite sure how the plane takes off yet. I'm just get enough speed and the angle and the downforce, and this heavy thing goes up there. Right, okay, I've seen it happen. I know that it's possible. I'm still trying to get my mind around this. I know that, like, I get that if there's like one of those really light planes and it's floating around with no engine up there, it's like a bird. Okay, I get that, right? that makes sense to me. Yeah, but there's this big heavy thing going up in the air. It's like still not quite.
Like a falcon.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yes. I'm gonna make a rocket that can take off and land like it took off, and be like, oh. Okay, everything is possible. now I've seen it all. Yeah. So yeah, there's so much. There's so much to understand. And that I didn't know before I became a parent. And then as a parent, I'm like, I need to get some information. What am I? And you read everything, and you don't know what's good and what's bad and what's right and what's wrong and what's true and what's false. And you need to develop sign language with your baby. And then the next article says, developing sign language stops their speech skills. Oh, for God's sake. What is it? What is it? What is it? You should expose your baby to lots of languages. Only one language at a time. And oh God, okay.
On the table.
Well, children have abilities that adults don't have. One of those abilities is separation of subjects into relevant categories. Now, if you look at the way that a school curriculum is organized, that's the adult brain. That's the adult organization. We'll put this here, we put this there, we put this there, we put this there, we put this there. Can't have it all mixed up. Well, if you give it to a child all mixed up, the child's brain automatically organizes these skills. The child automatically separates the languages. Automatically. Quite why this happens, we don't really know. And if an adult did this, we would call the adult genius. But children do it automatically. And so there appear to be no limits. Obviously there are some, but it's just a lot of exposure, a lot of practice. Malcolm Gladwell is an author. He wrote a book called The Outliers. This is about talent exists, but it's much less important than practice. A talented person who does not practice will never be better than a person with little talent who practices constantly. Now, you can't, there's an emotional element that you can't really manipulate. There's a feeling people have for certain things, but it's very interesting that practice and repetition is usually the difference between success and failure. Stupidly, we know this from exams. The more you repeat the information, the better you remember it, and so you pass the test. The test is probably completely useless and pointless. Well, you do because you understand automatically that it's useless. The brain retains that which is important and then puts into the deeper, what would be subconscious memory area, that which is not important. And that's assuming that it's inside the head, of course, because the brain is inside the head, but the thoughts? Yeah. Oh no, we've discovered that these are your habits, and over here you've got your reading skills, and then there's the left brain and the right brain. You mean I've got two brains, not just one? Oh, okay, right. That's what it is. It's two brains. Yeah, when we think of it as just one. So, and then you get into yin and yang and balance and the way that things connect together. So that there's no real limit to children's abilities, except the limits that we give them, which sometimes we need to. I mean, there's, you don't want to give the baby all the knives from the kitchen, right? But and then that's crazy as well, because I was watching a video. When was it? Is it this morning or last night? It's one of those children with amazing skills. There's a girl who's 14 who makes knives. She makes them. She gets the iron and she puts it in the fire and she beats it and she engraves it and she sells the knives for between 1,000 to 10,000 euro per knife. She makes more money. She's 14. She makes more money than most adults doing something which we consider too dangerous for children to do.
Yes.
And she does it better than the adults. And she's opened her own school to teach other children, other children and adults how to do it properly.
That's great.
Yeah. So if you don't expose children to these possibilities, and it, I'm sharp knife to my kids. I'm worried, right? Scissors. I'm worried they're going to come back with 3 fingers or something, right? The child learns very quickly that you fall down once and you learn quickly. You see the children learn to go down the stairs backwards very quickly. See, we keep guns away from kids. Well, how about we just teach them to use them properly? Yeah, it's a level of responsibility that I think it's important for people to develop and understand. If we are going to vote people into power that are going to send people into war, I think we need to understand what is happening there at the other end. Also, there's the great good guy bad guy argument. If the bad guys have guns and the good guys don't have guns, how can you possibly have a fair and balanced society? Oh, but we have laws to stop bad guys getting guns. Well, bad guys are going to be stopped by laws?
Yes, it's not.
It's not practical. Well, I work with a group of teenagers, and we were talking about fighting and self-defense and everything around that. And because last year I did Krav Maga for 6 months. It's a fighting style technique, and one of the kids asked me, "Okay, so what do you do if somebody pulls a gun on you?" I said, "Well, that means you don't understand the situation." I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Nobody will ever pull a gun on you."
Yes.
And well, why? Well, because you only pull the gun out if you're going to use it. And so by the time, no one's going to stand there pointing a gun at you. You'll already be shot. You only take the gun out if you're going to fire it. You don't take the gun out to not fire it, because the other person will then take their gun out and shoot you. So you only unholster the gun if you are going to fire it. So there's this idea that what do you do if someone's pointing a gun at you? That never happens. That only happens in films.
Yes. By the law, you can't shoot someone, even there is
self-defense. Yeah, that is one of the worst laws and rules ever created in history. Because I can tell you right now, if somebody tries to take anything from me, I don't have a gun here, but I do have a baseball bat, and I can tell you the person is not going to walk out of here. Right? Even if I don't care what the law says. I mean, the law is so ridiculously stupid that it's going to force me to take the baseball bat and put it in the hands of the other person at the end when they're lying on the ground and say, put down the baseball bat. I'll be like punching them in the face, right?
I saw a video how to defense against a knife attack.
Yeah.
I think it's no chance to defense.
Yeah. Well, it's
against knife attack.
well, the thing about guns at home is to understand that if you only have one gun in your home, that's a big mistake. Because of the Slovak law, if you have only one gun in your home, that's a big mistake. Yeah. But if you have 2 guns in your home, you're safe. You know,
Every floor.
no, because of the Slovak law. You see, what happens is some crazy motherfucker breaks into your house, you shoot them. You then take your other gun and you put it in their hand.
Oh, it's
Right?
bad.
Well, that's you have to do that because the law forces you to do that to protect yourself. So you having 1 gun, you need 1 gun which is legal, and 1 gun which is not legal, right? And this was explained to me by one of my clients who's director of a big company, can't say which company, but and he was explaining that you have, because he works with a lot of money and so he needs a gun all the time because he's working with the money, and I said you always have 2 guns in your home, 1 legal, 1 illegal, because if somebody breaks into your home, the Slovak law is you cannot shoot them. That's the Slovak law. You can have the gun but you can't shoot them. So what you do is you shoot them and then you take your other gun, you put it in their hand. And then when the police come, you're like, well, he had a gun. And that's it. And that's it. And they're like, oh, what about the surveillance cameras? You just destroy the footage.
My colleague has experience of...
Did I just say that? I can't believe I just can't believe I just said that, but it's the truth. It's the actual truth. Everybody lives in the philosophy, it's not going to happen to me, and at some point in their life they have to realize that things like that do happen. That all these people who buy security cameras after they get robbed,
Yes.
right? I mean, if you've got something of value, then it doesn't cost much. What you get, 200, 300 euro now. You can install a really good system. That has all those like features, like you can remotely check it on the internet and see what is happening. Well, there's a lot of good reasons for it. I mean, it's a deterrent. It's safety. You feel secure if you go on holiday that you can check that things are okay. If you've got a partner with kids at home, you can check that they're okay as well, right? And if something happens that or if you're not aware of something, I mean, you can check on that as well, right? You can check that the baby's still sleeping, or the kids are playing in their room or whatever. Because I know from my experience, it's kind of, you go outside into the garden and like every half an hour I better check the kids are okay. Yeah, and
It's the same. It's the same in everyone. Same problem.
yeah, and maybe there's something positive about, if you can check it through the camera. The kids don't know that you're checking it, and maybe they will develop some kind of trust or responsibility because of that. Because I know there was a bit of negativity from my son, because I was checking every half an hour to see if he was okay, and then he started to check with me every half an hour. Oh, Dad, where are you going? Dad, what are you going to do? Dad, where have you been? What are you doing? And where does this come from? Oh my God, it comes from me. He's copying. It's me. It's me. Oh no. No, you don't understand. Don't be like me. You have to be better. Yeah, the making the same mistakes basically. So yeah, all these little things to think about to make big differences. I was looking recently, learning to play a musical instrument is one of, it's like learning a language, learning to play a musical instrument. These are life skills that a lot of people don't learn, and they make big differences. One of the best ways to develop memory is to play music. Because the natural process of playing the music is remembering the notes and the song and the rhythm and the words and everything like that. And you're not even, the children don't even know that they're training their memory. They're just learning the piece of music. But it's a whole process of things. the sport, running around in the park kicking a football, right? Things that children love to do, and you never really see a group of middle-aged men running around in the park kicking a football. Maybe they should do that. Maybe it should be a part of their lives.